Hi, I'm Jeff Marshall with Marshall Marine, and the purpose of today's video is to show the process or procedure of setting a reef in a catboat. Reefing is very important in any boat, but more so in a catboat because it is one large sail, and as the wind picks up, pressures can load up quite heavily, and reducing the sail can certainly make your sail much more pleasurable, reduce the amount of potential breakage, and certainly be able to reduce some injury. So to effectively set a reef in a sail is an important aspect of a catboat, and hopefully I can explain this to you today. The boat we're using today is a Marshall 22. It's the same principle as it would be on our Scandalizing or our Sandpiper. The idea is to lower the bottom portion of the sail to the first reef point, and then raise the sail after that with reducing the sail area by 20% or so. This boat has jiffy reefing, which a lot of Scandalings and even some Sandpipers are equipped with, and I think all 22s are equipped with. For the purposes of showing the process, it's easier to show with the sail fully up. So, the first step will be to lower the sail. As you can see, the first reef point is about 4 feet up right there. We have the forward reef line right here. That runs up through the grommet and the forward end of the reef. It dead ends on the eye strap on the port side. Same thing on the aft end here, where this runs through a cheek block there, up through the grommet and the sail, and then dead ends on the eye strap. The idea is to first pull your forward line. You'll bring the tack of the sail down to the gooseneck. You'll bring the aft line in and tension that to stretch the foot out. After that, there are individual tie points in the sail. Those, I will explain afterwards, are really just to gather the belly of the sail up. I'll start by lowering the sail, and we'll do that by lowering the peak halyard first. By doing this, it'll make lowering the throat halyard a lot easier. Yeah, it comes down. Go about 60 to 80 degrees off the mast. You can put a hitch in that. Lower the throat halyard so that reefing grommet is below where it will be tightened up. I'll put a little tension in that. Now we go to the reef line. As I mentioned, we're going to go the forward line first. I'm going to pull that tight. This one is relatively easy because there's no pressure on it. So we get that as tight as we can, nice and snug. Now we'll take that off. There will be some line left over. You can do a coil, and since that line is taut, you can tuck it inside that on the boom. The key to the reef is this aft foot. This is where you really want to stretch the foot of the sail out. Get a nice tight foot so that you don't have too much belly in the sail. So this one, good pull. Tight right there, but always better. Put a little bite on the cleat there. And now, take up whatever tension you need. So the tighter you get that, the better. That is essentially set the reef in the sail. Now, what you've got though is a lot of belly in the sail. That's where these tie points come in. They run through the sail, and what you want to do with these, don't tie them tightly. If you tie them tightly, you'll get a scallop effect in the foot of the sail. Just tie the tips together with a reef knot or an overhand knot, so that when the sail goes back up, it's not billowing and you can see underneath it. In most cases, you don't need to tie all of them in. Obviously, if it's blowing hard, you need to put the reef in. Sometimes you don't want to go forward. And we'll do one more up here. Now, if you have the luxury of tying the reef in before you're leaving the dock or the mooring, you can tie all these in, especially if you know you're going to be on reef all day long. Just tie these things up a bit. Okay, so those tie points, or a number of the tie points are set. Now we can go back up with the sail. Back to the halyards. Pull them both at the same time. your new throat halyard is tight, so we can clean that off. Then bring the peak halyard the rest of the way. You set the sail. Clean that off. We're ready to go. And you see, we've reduced a significant amount of sail area here. That has two effects. One, reducing sail area reduces the pressure, but it also moves the center of effort of the sail forward, which will help the balance of the boat. If you have a full sail up and too much wind, you're going to be fighting the helm a lot. There's going to be a lot of pressure there. This makes it much more manageable. You have a much more aggressive sail. As far as when to set a reef in, that's going to vary depending on your comfort level of the boat or where you're sailing or who you're sailing with. I tend to use 15 knots as a ballpark. Certainly plenty of people sail them with full sails, 18 to 20, usually in racing situations. Other people will put a reef in at 12 knots just to have a nice casual sail. It's really your comfort level of the boat. Actually, key is actually paying attention to the helm. If you're fighting the helm a lot, get a lot of weather helm, it's probably time to put a reef in. But again, it'll make it a more manageable situation. You see up there's a second reef. A second reef is certainly important in really windy conditions, in mid-20s or higher. As you can see in this one, there's no lines pre-led for that reef. We do it on some occasions, but in full sail, it's a lot of lines hanging there. If you need to use a second reef, you can use the same lines. You just need to lower the sail, untie both of these forward and aft reef lines where they dead end of the boom. Pull them out of that first reef grommet, put them to the second reef grommet, and then it's the same procedure, pulling it down. In this case, as in all of our Marshall 22s, this has jiffy reefing. Most of our Scandalings have jiffy reefing as well. However, some boats do not, in which case the jiffy reefing runs this line back to the cockpit where you can access it. If you do not have jiffy reefing, you'll have a piece of line here in this grommet tied off, and it'll just hang similar to the way these tie points are. When it's time to set the reef, you'll lower the sail. You'll have to come forward with the sail down, take this line here, and you'll lash it around the gooseneck. Make that nice and tight. Then you can go back and do your aft reef line just as you've done with the jiffy reefing, and the tie point's the same as well. Just as effective, the jiffy reefing eliminates having to come forward. Untying the reef is the same thing in reverse. Undo your tie points, undo the aft line, then you'll come forward, undo your new tack line, and you go back up with the sail. I get a lot of comments from people that say they don't reef because it's a hassle. I would strongly recommend getting familiar with the reefing process. As I said, one, it's a safety factor. Two, it can make your sail much more enjoyable. Now you've set the reef in, you've gone sailing, and the wind dies, and you want to shake the reef out. It's the same process in reverse. You'll start by undoing the individual tie points. Back that one. And that one. Once we raise the sail, that'll come up. That one is slack now. Now we raise the sail. In this case, I usually go up with the throat halyard first, so I'm not skying the peak halyard. Throat halyard's tight. Bring the peak the rest of the way up. Now you're back at full sail. A general rule of thumb with catboats, if you're leaving the dock or mooring and you think you need a reef, tie one in. It's easier to shake one out than it is to tie one in underway. So as far as a safety precaution, it's good to set that reef in. And also, if you're tying it in at the dock or mooring, it's a little more manageable as far as being able to control the sail and get the proper tensions in it. There's one other technique common to catboaters or even any gaff rig boat. Is a technique called Scandalizing. It's sort of an emergency procedure sometimes if you need to gain control of the boat. If the wind really picks up and you've got a lot of pressure, or you're on a big heel, and really what it is, it's a matter of just dropping the peak halyard. What it does is takes out the top 60% of the sail as far as taking the pressure in it. You still have some pressure from the throat halyard, so you have maneuverability. It does make a racket. I wouldn't recommend doing that for long periods of time, but it does flatten the boat out, allows you to get control of things. And really what that is, as I said, it's lowering the peak halyard. Now, obviously, if you're blowing hard, that upper part of the sail would be making a racket, but the boat would flatten right out, and you'd be able to get a little more control. I'll go back up with it now. One other aspect of the reef, if you're out underway and you need to set the reef in, keeping the boat head to wind is important. And catboats want to fall away from the wind by nature with the mast set forward. If the boat is broadside to the wind, the sail's going to want to go off to one side, making the reefing quite a bit more difficult. If you've got someone with you, great. If you've got a boater to keep the boat head to wind, that makes it much easier. That way the boat can stay on center line. Like I said, it's a bit more manageable. If you don't have a motor and you need to set it, provided you got 3 or 4 minutes to drift, drop the sail completely. So the gaff is down. If you've got lazy jacks, it helps because it keeps the gaff from spilling over the side. The boat will probably want to head downwind, but you can tie your reef in with the main sheet and center line to keep it together, and then spin the boat around and go back up with it. It's a little trickier to do it that way, but like I said, it can keep the boat head to wind much easier. Many thanks to Jim Anderson, who lent us this boat, You Betcha, for this video purposes. I encourage you all to visit his YouTube website, Catboat Adventures. Some great footage of catboats in skinny water. Fun stuff to watch. Thank you all.